Hello everyone. So today I'm going to start on a lecture on complex numbers, and today in this video we are going to look at how to write complex numbers in different forms. So you may know that complex numbers are written like this. You have x plus I, y. This would be the form that you are very familiar of with actually. So this is a rectangular form. So let me just write here, this is a rectangular form, and this is very important for us to note that x and y is a real number. So these are real numbers. So this and this are real numbers. Okay, and x in this case, this is the real part, and this part is the imaginary part. And as in the case of a vector, we always represent a vector by one variable, right? So in this case, we can also represent a complex number, let's say by the letter z. So z can be written as x plus I, y. So x plus I, y, you can also represent this in the form of a coordinate. So just imagine you are plotting in the xy axis. So in this case, x is the real part, and on this axis y, this is the imaginary part. But then you have to be careful that this y is a real number, it is not an imaginary number. So here, for a given value of x and y, you can have a point over here. So this will correspond to this value x, and this will correspond to the value y. So this is another way of representing. So now you can write this as x, y. So please remember, this is xy and not x, I, y. So you do not have this I over here. Okay, so now you have one form, and here you have another form. Okay, so now from this plot, this is called as the complex plane, which is also known as the Argand diagram. Okay. So, and if you may remember from the previous lectures, in this case you can always represent this in terms of in a polar form. That is, if you take x equals to r cos theta and y equals to r sine theta, and this is basically like this. So here you have, this is your theta, you have x cos theta, and y you have r sine theta. Okay, so in this case you can write x plus iy to be equals to r cos theta plus I r sine theta. And here you can factor your r out so that you have cos theta plus I sine theta. So this is another way to represent this. So this is the third one. And here you may know that this term can be written as ei theta. This is cos theta plus I sine theta. And just to make it more complete, so you have a plus minus sign here. So here you have a plus minus sign over here. So this is the Euler angle. Right. So therefore, you have the third form, and here you can also write it in terms of r, e, I, theta. So this is the fourth way of writing. And finally, the easiest the easiest way, which in the form of a polar coordinate, is to write it as, instead of xy, but to actually represent it by r theta. Okay, so now let's just sum up what we have talked about. Now in this lecture we talk about how to represent complex numbers, and you have 5 ways to do it. So there is the rectangular form, which we are familiar with, which is written like this, and you can also represent it in terms of a coordinate representation like this, in a bracket where x and y is the real number. And you can also represent it in terms of a polar form, such that you can write it as r cos theta plus I sin theta. This is the third form, and this you will recognize that this is equals to ei theta. So this is the fourth form, and the final one is to write it like the one that you did over here, but instead of x and y, you will represent it by r, win, and theta.